The Rwandan government says it is ready to defend the country from all kinds of threats following what it calls increasing warmongering by the Democratic Republic of Congo. The Sunday statement comes a day after the DRC accused Rwanda of carrying out a drone attack in North Kivu province. The attack reportedly damaged a civilian aircraft at the airport in the strategic eastern city of Goma. Tensions between Kinshasa and Kigali continue to grow despite a recent meeting in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, to try and defuse the situation. Both sides accuse each other of supporting armed groups based in the eastern DRC. The U.S. recently condemned the violence in the east as concerns grew over a direct confrontation between the two countries. Meanwhile, Rwanda has written to the UN Security Council objecting to its plan to support a military deployment by Southern African nations in eastern DRC. All right, let's get more now on this. Chris Chamringa is live for us in DRC's capital, Kinshasa. Chris, what can you tell us about SADC's deployment to eastern DRC? What is their mandate and when is the mission expected to start and end?
Yeah, Penina, so the deployment of the troops from the Southern African Development Community was approved by leaders from the 16-nation regional bloc at an extraordinary summit that was held in Namibia last year in May. And these leaders said that this troops known as SAMI DRC are supposed to be given an offensive mandate to help the DRC army to restore peace in that part of the country because it has really deteriorated after the emergence of the M23 rebel group in late 2021. Now, their mandate is supposed to run for 1 year. It started in December 15th and last year and will end in on December 15th this year. And we have heard reports from the Congolese army that the troops from the Southern Africa Development Community have already been engaged in battles fighting alongside the DRC army, at the positions of the M23 rebels in areas around a town known as Sake, that is about 23 kilometers from the eastern city of Goma. And last month we had a statement from the spokesperson of the M23 rebel group saying that they were condemning the attacks against their positions by Congolese forces and the troops from SADC. And they said that the troops from SADC were firing heavy artillery at their positions and areas that were inhabited by civilians, and they will be left with no option but to carry out retaliatory attacks at the source of those attacks. And we just heard last week that 2 soldiers from South Africa were killed and 3 others were injured after a bomb landed at their military base in eastern DRC. And the Congolese government has said that bomb was fired by troops from Rwanda and the M23 rebels. But the Rwandan government has not issued a reaction to that accusation yet.
All right, Chris, so let's talk a little bit about the situation in the east. Talk to us about that. What is happening now there? And how has the government reacted to America's call for Kinshasa to cease cooperation with the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda armed group?
So from Saturday until this morning, there have been no reports of fighting in that town of Sake, which witnessed an escalation of fighting about 2 weeks ago. But what we have heard is that the residents of the city of Goma have been protesting against the United States, Britain, the European Union, and other international organizations for not using their influence, to kind of rein in Rwanda to stop, supporting the M23 rebels. The Congolese authorities and the people there have repeatedly maintained that the Rwandan forces, the RDF, is backing the M23 in this fight, although Rwanda has also repeatedly denied it. But a UN investigation said that they found evidence of Rwandan troops fighting there. And we also have heard that there was some disagreement between the Congolese army and troops, a militia group known as Wazalendo. It's a coalition of different militia groups that are fighting with the Congolese army. There was a dispute between some of those soldiers, and five soldiers were killed over the weekend because of the agreements they had. But the situation right now is a bit calm. There's been no fighting, although both sides are preparing for a more combat, more intense fighting. And that's despite the talks that were held at the African Union by leaders from both countries. They were together with the president of Angola, Mr. Lorenzo, who was trying to mediate a ceasefire between Rwanda and the DRC. But we have seen shortly after that meeting, there was another meeting between President Felix Tshisekedi, his Burundian counterpart Evariste Ndayishimiye, and South Africa's Cyril Ramaphosa, where they were discussing about how they can better coordinate their military operations in eastern DRC to try and help the government to restore peace in that part of the country. So it looks like there's still going to be more fighting. Both sides are determined to win this conflict militarily, despite the numerous calls from the international community for both of them to sit on the negotiating table and find a solution that resolves this dispute peacefully. Penina?
All right, Chris, thank you for that update. Chris Ochamringa, live for us in Kinshasa.